Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to the witnesses. Sadly, when the PA incites violence and we see a terror attack or a continued increase in violent activity, as we have seen over the last month and a half, we find this wrong reflexive response from the international community to make a false moral equivalence between the PA and Israel. And what we see all too often is the unwillingness to call out Abu Mazen and the PA, all of their officials, for their reprehensible words and their actions without finding the need to also reprimand Israel. And that is that false moral equivalence. When it comes to the Palestinians, some do verbal gymnastics so as not to upset the fragile nature of Abu Mazen and the PA, but there's no such concern when it comes to blasting the Israelis. Some very lamely blame settlement activity by Israel as the justification for increased violence, instead of putting the blame where it should be, with the Palestinian Authority, with Abu Mazen, with their long-standing practice of inciting violence and hatred against Israel. Why is there this double standard that is applied to Israel? Why does the international community feel the need to handle Abu Mazen with kid gloves? And doesn't this send the wrong signal and essentially legitimizes Abu Mazen, emboldens his action to continue the acts of terror? And this incitement isn't just intended for the limited consumption of the Palestinian people. In recent years, as we have seen, Abu Mazen has taken his harmful rhetoric to the international stage, using the UN General Assembly and other UN bodies as the preferred platform to gather like-minded nations together in an attempt to delegitimize the Jewish state. We saw this several weeks ago when Abu Mazen addressed the UN General Assembly, announced that the PA is no longer bound by the Oslo Accords nor its international obligations. This is outrageous. He accused Israel of trying to change the status quo on the Temple Mount and threatened a religious conflict that would spread across Jerusalem and the Palestinian authorities. And what happened when he said that? We're no longer bound by the Oslo Accords. A standing ovation each time he said that. And now Abu Mazen has requested, and it's my understanding that it was granted, he's requested to address an emergency meeting of the Human Rights Council next week, where I think it's safe to say that he will make no attempt to diffuse the situation, but only to inflame the tensions. We have a great deal of leverage at the UN with many of the nations that encourage Abu Mazen's actions in that body. What steps can we take to get other nations at the UN to put pressure on Abu Mazen to desist with the incitement, with his harmful rhetoric, and instead begin working for the betterment of the Palestinian people and toward true peace with Israel? Mr. Abrams and anyone else.
Well, these are very difficult questions. I think he pays no price. That's the problem. He keeps doing it because he never pays a price for doing it. So what's the price? I mean, we've been reading these terrible quotes from him. So what happens this week? Gets a meeting with the Secretary of State. Now, will the Secretary of State come out and denounce him and condemn him? I don't think so. So the lesson he learns is it's okay. It's acceptable. And I think what he's doing, and this is an answer to Mr. Engel's question, actually, what is he doing? He is trying to keep calm in the West Bank. That's why there's security cooperation. Just like Hamas tries to keep calm in Gaza. But Hamas wants violence in Israel and the West Bank, and Abbas wants violence in Israel. He just doesn't want it back home in the West Bank. It's a very cynical game. And as long as he pays no price, he'll keep it up.
I would fully agree with Elliot. The only thing that I would add here, and I may sound like a broken record today, is that so much of this has to do with the question of succession. That Abbas has made it, I mean, it's a binary proposition. He's made it either it's Hamas or it's me. right? So no one wants to touch him. You talk about why everybody handles him with kid gloves, right? He's made it such that he says, I am the only thing standing in the way of Hamas taking over both the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. So you're going to play by my rules. And it's for that reason that we see, I think, the United States bending over backwards, refusing to condemn a lot of what he's done, because we don't see new opportunities around the bend for new leaders. Again, I'll stress that I think we need to begin to pave the way for succession. Abbas won't like it, that's for sure. But I can tell you this, that the guy is a pack-a-day smoker. He's not healthy. When he drops dead,
Thank you.
we're going to have problems.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.